sometimes couples come into my office and say, but he should know what I want. Well, how come she doesn't know what I want?
Right. In a relationship, it's incredibly important to be able to ask for what you need. And yet so few of us are good at doing that. I think many of us feel afraid of doing that. We never learned how to do that. How can people learn how to ask for what they need?
It is hard.
It is hard.
It's very hard. And if anyone who is watching, or any of you are anything like me, I am so good at languaging what's wrong. I'm sort of brilliant at negative analysis or critical thinking. I mean, the culture rewards us if we're critical thinkers. So I can pop out those problems, you know, little bullets. But it really, a person who does that really is living in their lower brain often, just going to town on all the problems that need to be fixed. And they can lose the ability to really language what it is that they want. They don't think they deserve to language what they want. And so it is so deadly to a relationship if you're talking about the problems. And so illuminating if you begin to language what you want. So you have to practice. Couples really need to practice that. And a phrase that I have used with all of our children, but it's a good phrase in a marriage too, stay out of the victim place, but ask for what you want. Harville and I are sort of fun impaired, and we sometimes will put on Groucho Marx glasses and try to break out of our, we like both to analyze and be critical. We'll do something fun, and then really to language what are caring behaviors that we can practice and give to each other, make a list about what we want, and that really is transformational for the relationship.
I think if you're having trouble asking for help, I'm a big believer in the whys, and usually it's because there's some meaning that you're making. If I ask for help, I'm weak, as you said in the question. Well, what does weak mean? Where does that come from? And if it becomes a pattern in your life, is it something that you need to look at either with your partner more deeply or a professional?
Yeah, and I think some people say, often that I don't know what I want, much less know how to ask for it. And so what is really beautiful is that what we all want is buried in our negativity and in our frustrations. And Helen and I talk about that as a wish disguised as a complaint.
Interesting.
So instead of delivering the complaint to your partner, you convert it. And it's very simple, like, you know, you were late and you didn't get to dinner on time, and you know, when are you going to be? So there's a wish embedded in that, which is not that you just be to dinner on time, but that I can count on you.
But Harville, do you think the reason that is phrased as a complaint, because it's so scary to ask for what we want, because you may say no, right? And so I feel like, you know, it takes a lot of courage to phrase it as a wish, because it's easy to say, here's what it is. It feels like there's a lot of vulnerability when you phrase it as a wish.
There is a vulnerability in it, because then you could get a no.
Right.
But we've discovered there's also a lack of awareness that the frustration is an embedded wish. And so, of course, what happens when you're expressing a frustration, you unconsciously anticipate the person knows what you want and if I criticize you enough, you'll give me what I want. And that's an unconscious expectation and very negative process. So you have to say, well, what am I complaining about? Okay, what do I want, which if I got it, I wouldn't be complaining. So it's actually a thought transformation process, and it really transforms the relationship, because when I come to Helen with a complaint, I'm going to get one response. No matter how good she is, I'm going to trigger her cortisol.
Right.
I'm going to put up my defense.
And she's going to put up a defense. Even if I can't see it and she doesn't become defensive, her brain is designed to hear a negative as a potential danger. But if I come and say, Helen, here's what I would really like, then she has instructions about what to do.
Right, then it's not threatening.
And it's not threatening.
Well, and it gives me a chance to succeed.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
In terms of succeeding, sometimes couples come into my office and say, but he should know what I want. Well, how come
Right.
she doesn't know what I want? And we have to really go back to the basics about how to relate to people. I mean, they're relating to each other in many, many ways, and some of those ways they work really well as partners, but in terms of getting the love that they want emotionally from each other, to just get to the very basics of, okay, that person is separate from me, because there's something symbiotic also about expecting that someone else knows what we want, right? But no, even if it feels symbiotic sometimes in negative ways or even in positive ways, we are all separate people sitting here. We cannot read each other's minds.
Right.
And we need to be able to say, this is what I want, this is what I need. And it's really going back to the basics, just like we teach our children about how to communicate. How are you today? You know, how was that food? What do you need? Is that good? Does that fit? Does that work?
I think too, though, what's happening is if I make it about myself, I'm not very centered in that sometimes as a participant in a relationship, but I know what I want you to change. And so I start having to reflect on myself to be able to ask for what I want. And I have to figure that out, because what I know is what I don't want, and it's what you're doing. And I phrase it that way. So learning to be able to realize we're not married to mind readers or in relationship with mind readers, but to realize it's loving to be able to tell our partner what we want so they get a chance to show up and give it to
Right,
us.
exactly. It's such a
Right.
gift.
Yeah,
It's
there's
called
no-
empowering the partner.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
This has been such a fascinating and inspiring discussion. It can be really scary to ask for what you need or to grant it, to express it as a wish, but it is a absolute imperative if you want to get close and you want to give your partner a chance to give you what you need. If you can't and don't ask for it, you don't give them a chance to grant it. So you've got to ask.